Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula was in the northwest yesterday to unveil a bridge to help pupils get to school safely. But it soon turned into a politically charged event, with the minister taking a swipe at the MKMVA's Makhosini and Carl Niehaus. Our reporter Zintle Kanyane filed this report.
Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula arrived to open this multi-million rand bridge in a rural village in the northwest. But his visit turned into another public spat with leaders of the Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association, who he has accused of being thugs and sore losers as they lost government tenders he cancelled at rail agency PRASA. The MKMVA wants Mbalula's head, saying that he is compromising the security of those who use trains.
KB is used to threatening people, is used to parading violence, is used to vandalism. They insulted me. They went to Hillbrow police station 2 months ago. I kept quiet. KB and them and their foot soldiers, right? They did that.
So you think they provoked you?
Let me tell you, even the things that are happening at the Department of Transport, remnants of those orchestrations, is KB and Carl Niehaus. Carl Niehaus, when I was in the police, he wanted contracts there, in my name.
Mbalula says he will meet the ANC on Monday to defend his utterances and corruption allegations against Makhosini and Carl Niehaus. He also defended his tweets on Jacob Zuma, Ace Magashule and Busisiwe Mkhwebane.
They use the name of Magashule, Mkhwebane, Zuma to attack people. That's what they do, these elements. They call themselves RET forces. They are SG's people. They will report me to Busisiwe Mkhwebane, I don't know for what.
While the ANC has asked leaders to resist from public spats, Mbalula appears unmoved. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Zintle Kanyane in Madidi village in the northwest.
Well, let's stay with this story. PRASA security at the center of the war of words between Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula and the Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association. The MKMVA accusing Mbalula of destroying PRASA infrastructure by getting rid of the security companies contracted to the agency. On the other hand, Mbalula hitting back, saying the MKMVA is targeting him because he has closed the financial tap. Well, PRASA has since embarked on a recruitment drive to hire its own security personnel. Let's speak now to Makhosini Mgitywa. He speaks for the PRASA agency. Babu Mgitywa, thank you very much for making the time to speak to us here. The minister is making it very clear that the contracts that were cancelled by the passenger rail agency, the leaders of the MKMVA were direct beneficiaries. Can you say that with certainty? You are the people who were directly involved in cancelling these contracts.
Look, my role as a spokesperson and someone responsible for communication at PRASA, it is to communicate the positions of the organization. I don't get into the detail of who has a tender with PRASA, so I wouldn't have that information. But if that is central to the discussion that is taking place, we can find that information for you. But let me tell you what I can confirm. It is that the contracts, the security contracts that were in place were cancelled for a number of reasons, were terminated or allowed to expire for a number of reasons. PRASA did not get value out of those contracts. And let me give you facts so that you don't rely on my assessment of the situation. PRASA in the past 4 to 5 years or so has lost about 4 billion rands worth of infrastructure. Right? In the 3 years up to 2019, it lost about 1 billion rands worth of that infrastructure. And that happened while those security companies were in place. Right? There has been a staggering of the vandalism. So it has always been there. Historically, the infrastructure of PRASA is exposed, is porous. It's not as protected as other, like for instance the Gautrain. So you will have vandalism. It is going to take place. But it increased when we got to a point where PRASA was having financial difficulties and couldn't pay security companies. And the employees of those security companies decided to withhold their labor. They didn't go to work. And we saw the vandalism going up. Now, that predates Minister Mbalula. You also had a situation where the public protector and the auditor general found those contracts to have been irregular. And the facts bear those institutions out. Because PRASA, through a process of a disciplinary process, fired 4 officials, senior officials within protection services who were working with these security companies.
Mr. Mgitywa?
Yes.
You're saying that PRASA did not get value for money.
Yes.
In its engaging of the security companies employed to protect that infrastructure.
Yes.
Yesterday, Mr. Mapatwe, in KZN, standing alongside the ANC Secretary General Makhosini, says that the cancellation of those contracts has led to infrastructure being open to thieves for them to either steal or, vandalize it. What would your response be to that?
Partly it is true. Because when the security contracts were not renewed or were terminated, we saw an increase in vandalism. But let me tell you, Toli, the problem of vandalism against PRASA infrastructure is multi-layered. You can't blame one person or one group of people for it. There is a number of factors that inform it. There are operators of other modes of transportation who do not want PRASA to be operational. We have had cases, for instance, in Cape Town, where youngsters were found burning a train, right? And they were taken in to be interrogated. And therein comes a hotshot lawyer. We don't know who was paying that lawyer, and took those balls away, and they couldn't be interrogated. So what I'm saying is there are many layers to the problem. You cannot blame one person. Because as I said to you, in the past 5 years or so, PRASA has lost about 4 billion rands worth of infrastructure. That predates Fikile Mbalula. That predates the current leadership of PRASA. When you're talking about PRASA, you must remember that it's an organization that was overrun, completely taken over by malfeasance. Right? So that malfeasance is the result why you have the vandalism that you have at PRASA today.
Mr. Mgitywa, I want us to, again, just remind the viewers why we invited you here.
Yeah.
And I want us to listen one more time to what the Transport Minister had to say yesterday. Okay, let's take a listen.
KB is used to threatening people, is used to parading violence, is used to vandalism. They insulted me. They went to Hillbrow police station 2 months ago. I kept quiet. KB and them and their foot soldiers, right? They did that.
So you think they provoked?
Let me tell you, even the things that are happening at the Department of Transport, remnants of those orchestrations, is KB and Kalni House. Kalni House, when I was in the police, he wanted contracts there, in my name.
The minister is very clear. I don't know whether I'm making too much of it. It would seem to me, Mr. Mgitywa, that Mr. Mapatwe may have been a direct beneficiary if we are to listen or take Minister Mbalula at his word. Again, I ask you the question. KB Mapatwe, did he benefit directly from these security contracts?
Look, I am not going to mislead you and your viewers and give you information that I am not sure of. I do not know who were behind the security contracts at PRASA. I don't know who the beneficiaries were, but what I'll tell you is that PRASA did not get the value that it deserved out of the security contracts. And they were irregular, which is why they were terminated or they were not renewed. And that's not PRASA saying that. It's a public protector. It is the Auditor General saying that.
Mr. Mapatwe belongs to the governing party, the ANC. Should we be drawing any links to what has happened in as far as the contracts. Perhaps my simple question to you is, these contracts being cancelled, have they somehow put pressure on you as a rail agency coming from the governing party to either reinstate them?
Look, I think one of the things that Mr. Mbalula, the minister, must be credited for, it is that he has made sure that PRASA has everything that it needs to be able to do what it is supposed to do. And that we get protection from the minister so that we are not put under undue political pressure to take decisions that are not in the interest of PRASA. I do not know that, I don't know whether there are people who have tried to put pressure on PRASA to act in one way or the other, to give contracts to somebody and not the other. I have not witnessed anything of the sort.
If you're not under any undue pressure
Yes.
from the governing party,
Yes.
why is the administrator suddenly taken off?
The administrator was taken off because an organization which is based in Cape Town called #Unite Behind challenged his application. Perhaps as the media, you may want to know who is behind that organization or who funds that organization. I do not know. I do not know why they thought that when PRASA is under, this turnaround plan, that should be stopped. But be that as it may, the court has pronounced itself on that to say that the appointment of Mr. Mpondo was unlawful, and the minister decided not to challenge that. Instead, he followed the order of the court, which was that Treasury must find a suitable person to act as accounting authority for PRASA. And the person that they brought, Mr. Badisa Machejo, is someone who's highly qualified, because at AXA, which is one of the most well-run state-owned companies, he's responsible there for infrastructure asset management. And the work that he's doing at PRASA right now, his interventions are showing that that was indeed a good decision. So, PRASA does have challenges, but as someone who sits in PRASA, I can tell you personally that I think PRASA is in a much better space now. I think the trajectory, and things may well get worse before they get better, but the trajectory is a positive one, because the whole thing was about removing the problem, the culture of malfeasance and impunity that had taken hold at PRASA. And I think under the guidance of the shareholder representative, which is the Minister of Transport, PRASA is moving in the right direction. The worst is behind us. We have appointed new security protection officers to look after our infrastructure. The minister has unveiled a 5-point plan to deal with this problem, which includes doing intelligence-led operations, combat approach, and all those things, including communication, which has been lacking, by the way. So we are positive that we're moving in the right direction, and that is happening because of the support of the minister, not in spite of it.
Final question, briefly, please.
Yes.
You've decided to insource security.
Yes.
In other words, you've hired your own security.
People. Yes.
You are not outsourcing security services. Versus the amount of 4 billion that you said was not of value.
Yes.
How much is being spent now on security?
No. The 4 billion rands is the damage that we have suffered to the infrastructure. Right. Those contracts per annum were in the region of hundreds of millions of rands. But, you cannot have a situation where PRASA in the last few years loses about 4 billion rands of infrastructure. In the majority of the time, there were security companies that were in place. Clearly, PRASA was not getting any value.
Is PRASA saving money now as a result of insourcing security?
Definitely, and we are improving. We're ramping up arrests. We are arresting a lot of people. We are recovering a lot of that infrastructure. The pity is that you recover that infrastructure is damaged, you can no longer use it again, but we are recovering it at a very high rate. That is as a result of the intervention of the minister through that 5-point strategy that was launched a few weeks ago.
A few months down the line, are we not going to hear stories about trains being set alight? Are we not going to hear stories about steel, the rail, that trains run on, being taken off and being sold to people who operate because you got insufficient security? Do you have enough security personnel, and are these people well trained and up to the task?
You know, there are limitations in terms of, budget. You know, we would want to have a security guard everywhere, but that's not possible because we have thousands and thousands of kilometers of the network which are not protected by any physical barrier, right? So we are looking at e-guarding, for instance, getting technology such as drones, face recognition technology and all that to make sure that we use technology to also, improve our security. We will always have limitations. So I cannot rule out that there will be problems in the future. But what I'll tell you is, all of us as South Africans, and particularly communities that host our network, we have a responsibility to make sure that we protect that infrastructure as people of South Africa, because it belongs to us as people of South Africa, and it serves the vulnerable among society, which is low-income earners and poor people. If people were to go to OR Tambo and ban doing 747 belonging to SAA, there would be more outrage, there would be a lot of outrage from the media and everybody else. But when a train bans, nobody or very few people are bothered by that because they don't use the train, it is used by poor people. So all of us have a responsibility. Hence I say, you cannot blame one person or one group of people for the vandalism that has happened against PRASA infrastructure.
Makhosini Mgitywa, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
To speak to us. He speaks for Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, that's PRASA in short, and he is assuring the nation that PRASA is on its way to recovery.